The night sky above the alien city glowed with strange colors. Neon lights blinked in every corner, and tall towers touched the dark clouds. The streets were full of noise, machines moving, traders shouting, creatures rushing. But in the middle of all that noise, one figure moved slowly. It was a poor alien mother. Her clothes were torn, her skin pale, and in her weak arms she carried a small baby wrapped in an old cloth. The baby coughed, a dry and painful sound, and the mother pressed him closer to her chest. She looked tired, hungry, and afraid. Her hands shook as she opened a small leather pouch. Inside were a few coins. She counted them again and again as if hoping they would magically grow, but they did not. The same small number stared back at her, too few. Not enough, she whispered to herself, her voice breaking. Maybe it will be enough for one bottle of formula. Just one, please. The mother walked to a shop with bright glowing signs. The smell of food and drink came from inside. The shopkeeper, a big alien with sharp eyes, looked at her and frowned. He already knew she was poor. He already knew she had almost nothing to give. Formula, the mother said softly. She placed her last coins on the counter. The shopkeeper glanced at them and laughed. This? Not enough, he said coldly. Prices are higher today. If you can't pay, go away. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She tried to explain, my baby, he hasn't eaten in 2 days. Please, even a little. But the shopkeeper waved his hand. Not my problem. Pay full price or leave. The baby whimpered, a weak and broken cry. The sound made some creatures in the market stop and look, but none of them stepped forward. Most turned their eyes away. Some even shook their heads. To them she was just another poor alien. And in this city the weak were invisible. The mother picked up the coins again. She stared at them as her hands trembled. She thought of her baby's life. She thought of his small body, his tiny fingers, and his eyes that were slowly losing light. A pain burned in her chest. She whispered, "What will happen to you, my child? Will you die because I am too poor to feed you?" Her legs felt weak. She wanted to collapse right there in the street, but she kept standing because her baby needed her. She looked around the market, desperate. Maybe someone would help. Maybe someone would show mercy. But no one came. Just then, the crowd shifted. A tall figure walked past. His steps were heavy, his clothes simple. His face was different, his skin was not like the others. His eyes were deep, sharp, and filled with something strange. He was human. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Most aliens did not trust them. They called them selfish, dangerous, unpredictable. And yet, as the human walked by, his eyes stopped on the poor mother and her baby. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The mother quickly lowered her head. She felt ashamed. She thought, if even my own people won't help me, why would a human? She hugged her baby tighter, trying to hide her tears. The shopkeeper smirked at the human. Don't bother with her, he said. She has no money. She should learn to survive like the rest of us. The baby coughed again, weaker this time. The sound was sharp in the silence. The mother's tears fell on her baby's forehead. Her heart screamed in silence. The human stood still. His eyes did not move from the mother's face. He saw her coins, her shaking hands, and her dying child. He could have walked away. He could have ignored it like everyone else, but he didn't. The mother felt his eyes on her, and her fear grew. Was he judging her? Was he mocking her? Or was he planning something else? She did not know. She only knew that her baby was slipping away, and she had no power to stop it. The market noise grew softer, as if the world was waiting to see what the human would do. Would he turn away like all the others? Or would he do something different? The poor alien mother did not dare to hope. The alien mother stood frozen in the middle of the market. The sharp smell of metal, smoke, and spices filled the air, but she noticed none of it. All she could feel was the weight of her baby in her arms and the burning fear in her heart. The human was still standing there. His eyes, strange and different from every creature in the crowd, rested on her. His gaze was not cold like the shopkeeper's. It was not mocking like the others. It was heavy, searching as if he was remembering something far away. The mother lowered her eyes quickly. She thought, humans are dangerous. They never care about us. Why is he looking at me? Her hands tightened around her baby, shielding him as if her arms could protect him from the whole universe. The shopkeeper leaned forward, breaking the silence with his sneer. She is wasting everyone's time, he said loudly, hoping the human would agree. She has no money and her brat is crying too much. Better she leaves. The baby's small body shook with another cough. His thin fingers reached up, grasping blindly at the air. as if asking the universe itself for help. The sound cut into the market's noise like a blade. For a heartbeat, even the traders grew quiet. The human stepped closer. The mother's heart raced. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. She felt trapped, between her shame, her fear, and the unknown intentions of this stranger. The human's shadow fell across her and the baby. He looked at the coins in her hand, then at the pale, trembling child in her arms. His jaw tightened. The mother waited for cruel words, maybe even laughter. Instead, the human spoke softly. His voice was low but strong, carrying a weight that silenced the whispers around them. How long since he ate? The mother blinked, surprised by the question. She hesitated, unsure if she should answer. Her lips trembled. 2 days. Maybe more, she whispered. I tried, but I cannot. Her voice broke before she could finish. The human's eyes darkened as if he was remembering a ghost from his past. For a moment his face looked almost pained. Then he turned sharply to the shopkeeper. Give her the formula, the human said. The shopkeeper laughed, shaking his head. You pay, maybe. Otherwise she gets nothing. The human didn't move. He just stared at the shopkeeper with a calm, unblinking look. There was no anger in his eyes, but there was something stronger. Something that made the shopkeeper's smile fade. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, the human reached into his pocket. The clink of coins rang out, louder than the noise of the entire market. He dropped them on the counter without a word. Gasps spread through the crowd. A murmur rose. A human. Paying for an alien? Impossible. What does he want from her? The mother froze. She stared at the coins, her mind unable to believe it. Her people had suffered for years. No one helped. And now, this human stranger had paid for her child's food. The shopkeeper, still shocked, pushed the formula toward her. His hands moved quickly, almost nervously, as if he wanted the human's gaze to leave him. The mother's arms trembled as she took the bottle. She tilted it carefully, bringing it to her baby's lips. The little one latched on weakly, then with sudden hunger. His small chest rose and fell as he drank greedily, life returning drop by drop. Tears ran down the mother's face. She tried to speak, to thank the human, but the words stuck in her throat. Her heart pounded with confusion. Why would he do this? She looked up, afraid. What if he asked for something in return? What if this was a trap? But the human said nothing. He just stood, watching the baby drink, his face unreadable. The whispers in the market grew louder. Some voices mocked. He must be a fool. Humans never help for free. He will take her baby as payment. Others, however, were hushed, curious. Maybe he is different. The mother's fear only grew. She wanted to trust, but every lesson of her hard life told her not to. No one gave without taking. No one was kind without reason. She whispered to herself, almost trembling, Why? Why would a human help me? The human finally moved. He turned as if ready to walk away without waiting for thanks, without asking for anything. But before he stepped away, he said one quiet line so soft that only she could hear. No child should cry from hunger. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd as if the city had swallowed him. The mother stood in silence, her baby in her arms, the warm bottle against his lips. Her tears fell onto the cloth that wrapped him. She did not understand what had just happened, but deep inside a small spark of hope flickered to life. The market soon returned to its usual chaos, but for the alien mother the world felt different. She stood frozen, her baby drinking slowly from the bottle, her mind spinning. The human's words, "No child should cry from hunger," echoed again and again in her head. She turned to look for him, but he had already melted into the crowd. His tall figure was gone as if he had never been there. The shopkeeper grumbled under his breath. Strange humans. Wasting money on trash. He swept the coins into his drawer and refused to look at her again. But the mother barely heard him. Her baby's lips moved eagerly on the bottle, his small chest rising with each breath. For the first time in days, his weak eyes began to blink with life. The sight broke her heart and healed it at the same time. Still, her mind filled with doubt. Why would a human help me? Far away, the human walked through the crowded streets, his steps heavy, his hands clenched. The lights of the city reflected on his face, but his eyes were far away, trapped in memory. He remembered another time, another place, a cold alley, a hungry boy, his own stomach twisting in pain. He remembered begging for bread while people passed him without a glance. He remembered the same cruel eyes that now stared at that alien mother. And he remembered a promise he had made long ago, whispered into the night sky. If I ever grow strong, I will not turn away from hunger. That promise had followed him across worlds, and today, in a market filled with strangers, he had kept it. But still he felt uneasy. He knew how rare kindness was in this galaxy. He knew that people would not believe his reason. They would whisper lies, twist his actions into shadows, and maybe, he thought bitterly, they would even try to punish him for it. Humans were watched everywhere. Their history of war and power made others fear them. To show compassion now was dangerous. It made him stand out when he wanted to remain invisible. Yet when he saw the mother shaking hands, he had no choice. Back at the market, the mother sat on a broken step, holding her baby. The formula bottle was nearly empty, but her child's breathing was steadier. She brushed a finger across his cheek, whispering, "You are alive, little one, because of him." But even as she spoke, her fear grew. What if the human returned? What if he demanded payment later? What if his kindness was just the beginning of something darker? She looked around. The other aliens avoided her eyes. Some shook their heads, muttering, "Foolish woman," trusting a human. Others just whispered and pointed. The mother pulled her baby closer as if protecting him from unseen dangers. Her thoughts raced. Should I leave this city? Should I hide? Or should I wait and hope? Hope that his kindness was real? That night, the human returned to his small room at the edge of the city. It was dark, with only a single lamp glowing. He sat at a table and opened a small box. Inside were a few things he carried from his past. A torn picture, an old coin, and a small wooden toy. His fingers touched the toy. It was shaped like a bird, carved with care. He had made it as a boy when he had nothing else. It was a reminder of a life before hunger, before pain. He closed his eyes and saw the baby's face again. Small, fragile, innocent. He saw the mother's tears. He felt the weight of her despair, and he knew something deep inside. This would not be the last time he saw them. Days passed. The story of the human spread through the district like fire. Whispers filled the air. "Did you hear? A human paid for a starving alien child." "No, impossible. Humans only care for themselves." "But I saw it." He put down the coins with my own eyes. The tale grew, twisted in different mouths. Some said he had saved the child. Others claimed he had marked the family for debt. Suspicion and hope mixed like oil and water. The mother heard the whispers too. Each time her heart beat faster. She wanted to believe in hope, but fear chained her. She rocked her baby gently, whispering, "What if he was the first light in our darkness? Or what if he was only a shadow?" Meanwhile, the human walked through the city as if nothing had happened. But every step carried weight. Every glance from strangers felt sharper. He knew people were watching him now. Still, he told himself, it was worth it. The child lives. That is enough. But in the silence of his room, when the city's noise faded, he whispered into the darkness. Or maybe, it is only the beginning. The night was cold in the alien city. Pale moons hung in the sky, and the streets shimmered with faint blue light. The poor alien mother sat inside her small room, her baby curled against her chest. The bottle of formula was empty now, but the child breathed more steadily. For the first time in weeks, she could hear the sound of quiet sleep instead of weak coughing. Yet peace did not reach her heart. Her mind replayed the moment in the market again and again. The human's eyes, his words, his coins falling on the counter. It felt like a dream. A stranger had saved her child's life, but why? She whispered into the darkness. What if it was not kindness? What if he wants something later? Every lesson she had learned in this city told her the same thing. Kindness was a mask. Kindness always carried a hidden price. The next morning, when she stepped outside to search for food scraps, she felt the weight of many eyes. Neighbors stood in doorways, pretending to be busy. Traders whispered behind their hands. Children pointed at her and giggled while their parents pulled them away. She heard the words carried on the wind. She trusted a human. Foolish mother. Just wait. He will come to collect what he wants. Her stomach twisted. Fear grew heavier in her chest. She pulled her shawl over her head and hurried down the street, clutching her baby close. Later that day, she returned to the market. She needed to try again, to beg for work, to gather coins for the next meal. But the moment she entered, the air grew colder. Whispers followed her like shadows. That's the one. The human's toy. She doesn't even see the trap. She walked quickly, her head down, trying to ignore them. But when she reached the stalls, the shopkeepers turned away. No work today, one said without looking at her. Too busy, said another. One laughed outright. Go ask your human friend. He feeds you now. Her cheeks burned with shame. She turned away, heart racing, eyes wet with tears. As she left the market, she almost collided with him. The human stood at the edge of the crowd, silent as stone. His face was calm, unreadable, but his eyes carried that same weight. The mother froze, gripping her baby tightly. Her voice shook. Why are you here again? The human said nothing for a long moment. Then he spoke, his tone steady. Because I wanted to see if the child is alive. The mother blinked. She had expected demands, threats, tricks, but his words were simple, almost gentle. She looked down at her baby, who stirred in her arms, breathing softly. He lives, she whispered. The human nodded once. Good. He turned as if ready to walk away again, but the mother's fear broke through her silence. Wait, she called louder than she meant to. The crowd stirred, watching closely. She lowered her voice, trembling. Why are you doing this? Tell me the truth. What do you want from me? The human stopped. He turned back slowly, his eyes meeting hers. The crowd leaned closer, eager for the answer. But the human only said, nothing. The word dropped like a stone into water. The crowd murmured in disbelief. The mother's throat tightened. Her fear twisted into confusion. Nothing, no one helped for nothing. That was not how this city worked. She wanted to scream, tell me the real reason. Tell me what you plan. But her lips refused to move. The human gave her one last look, his eyes unreadable. Then he disappeared into the streets again, leaving the mother surrounded by whispers. That night the mother sat awake, rocking her baby slowly. Shadows stretched across the walls. Every noise outside felt dangerous. Every whisper of the wind carried voices. He will come back. He will take what is his. She pressed her forehead against her child's. If he returns, if he asks for you, what will I do? Her baby stirred, small fingers curling around her cloth. His warmth pressed against her, fragile but real. She closed her eyes, whispering through tears. I will fight for you, my child. Even against a human. But deep inside, a different voice whispered too. A softer voice. What if he really meant nothing? What if kindness was real? The thought frightened her more than anything else. Far away in his dark room, the human sat at his table. His hands rested on the wooden toy bird, the small piece of his past. He closed his eyes and remembered the hunger, the loneliness, the night he had nearly died as a boy. And he remembered the promise he had made to himself. No child should cry from hunger. His jaw tightened. He knew the whispers in the market. He knew the suspicion in their eyes. But he also knew he would not turn away. Not this time. Not ever. The human whispered into the silence. Fear is natural. But one day they will understand. The city slept under a sky filled with glowing moons. The streets were quieter now, but silence did not bring peace to the alien mother. She sat in her small broken home holding her baby close. The child slept soundly, his tiny breaths brushing against her chest. Yet her heart was restless. She could not forget the human's eyes. She could not forget his one strange word. Nothing. Nothing? How could anyone give something and want nothing? In her world, everything had a cost. Every smile, every hand, every coin. She whispered to herself, there is no such thing as kindness without a chain. But inside her, a small spark refused to die. The next day, the mother walked carefully to the edge of the market. She needed work, but she also needed answers. She scanned the streets, her eyes searching for the tall figure that haunted her thoughts, and then she saw him. The human stood near a wall, watching the crowd but not part of it. He did not trade, he did not beg, he did not speak. He simply stood, his face calm but distant, as if the noise around him belonged to another world. The mother's steps slowed. Her chest tightened. Fear urged her to turn away, but another force, something deeper, pushed her forward. Her voice shook as she approached. Why are you here again? The human looked at her, his eyes steady. Because I knew you would return. Her heart raced. What do you want from me? Tell me. Everyone says you will take something, my home, my life, maybe even... My child. The human did not flinch. His gaze was steady, heavy with memory. I told you before. I want nothing. The mother's hands tightened around her baby. Then why? Why help me? Do you think I am weak? Do you pity me? For a long moment, the human did not answer. The crowd around them slowed, sensing something important. Whispers rose again, spreading like smoke. Finally, the human spoke, his voice low but clear. I do not pity you. I understand you. The mother froze. Understand me? How? The human's eyes darkened. He looked past her as if seeing a shadow from his past. Because once I was like you. The word struck her like a blow. She stared at him, confused. This human, taller, stronger, feared by all, was once like her. Hungry, helpless, begging. She shook her head. No. Humans are powerful. Humans always have more. You do not know what it is like to starve. The human's jaw tightened. His voice dropped into something rough, something sharp. I know I was a child once, smaller than your baby. My stomach empty, my body cold. I begged in the streets and no one helped. They looked away, just as they looked away from you. The crowd grew silent. The whispers stopped. Even the market's noise seemed to fade. The mother's lips parted, but no words came. She could see it in his eyes, the truth, the pain. He was not lying. He carried scars inside him, invisible but heavy. The human continued, softer now. That day I promised myself, if I ever grew strong, if I ever had something to give, I would not turn away. Not from a hungry child, not from a mother's tears. The mother's throat tightened. For the first time she felt her fear weaken. She felt something new, a dangerous, fragile thing, trust. Her voice shook. But why me? Out of all the people in this city, why did you choose me? The human looked at her child sleeping in her arms. His gaze softened in a way that startled her. Because he reminded me of myself. And because I knew, if I walked away, he might not live to see another day. Tears blurred her eyes. She had lived with cruelty for so long, she had forgotten what simple mercy felt like. The human stepped back as if preparing to leave again, but this time the mother's fear did not stop her voice. Wait, she whispered. If you truly want nothing, then at least tell me your name. The human paused. For a moment his face was unreadable, caught between caution and memory. Finally he said one word. Darius. The name hung in the air like a secret. The crowd, though silent, would remember it. The mother repeated it softly, almost as if tasting hope for the first time. Darius. The human nodded once. Keep your child close. Feed him, let him live. That is enough. Then, as always, he turned and disappeared into the busy streets, leaving behind only his name. That night, the mother sat in her room, her child warm against her. She whispered the name again and again as if it were a charm, a shield. Darius. Darius. For the first time in her life, she believed something impossible. She believed that kindness could be real. But outside in the shadows, others whispered too. And not all voices carried hope. Some carried envy. Some carried fear. And some carried hate. The mother did not know it yet, but Darius's act of kindness had already started something larger, something that would not be stopped. The market never forgot. One act. One bottle of formula. One human's choice. That was all it took to light a fire in the city's cold streets. By the next sunrise, whispers had already spread. Traders leaned across their stalls, speaking in low voices. Children whispered the story like a secret game. Even the beggars in the alleys knew the name. Darius. Some voices carried hope. They say he paid for a starving child. Imagine. A human showing mercy. Maybe not all humans are the same, but other voices were sharp with fear and doubt. He is hiding something. Humans never give without reason. Mark my words, this will end badly. The alien mother walked through the market again, her baby stronger in her arms. She felt the eyes of strangers following her. Some looked at her with pity, some with envy, and some with pure suspicion. One old alien woman stopped her, clutching her wrist. Daughter, listen to me. Do not trust him. A human's kindness is poison, sweet in the beginning, deadly in the end. The mother's heart wavered. The fear returned. But then she looked down at her child, his cheeks no longer pale, his eyes brighter than before. How could she doubt the one who had saved him? Still, she said nothing. She simply bowed her head and walked on. Meanwhile, Darius became a shadow of rumor. He walked the streets quietly, never staying long, never explaining himself. Yet everywhere he went, the whispers grew. Some pointed at him with curiosity. Others avoided him as if he carried a curse. But the most dangerous thing happened quietly. His story spread beyond the market, into other districts, into other homes. And slowly, something began to change. One evening in a crowded alley, a young alien boy dropped a piece of bread. Another child, thinner, weaker, reached for it. The boy paused, remembering the story of the human. Then, instead of keeping it, he broke the bread in half and shared it. His mother gasped. "Why would you do that?" she asked. The boy answered simply, "Because Darius did." The name became a spark, but sparks can start fires. The city's leaders soon heard of the rumors. They did not like them. To them, humans were dangerous, symbols of fear, chaos, and war. If one human became a figure of hope, it would weaken their control. They whisper his name as if he is a savior. One leader hissed during a meeting, "We cannot allow this. Hope is dangerous," another spat. "He is only one man. Crush him and the story dies with him." But a third warned, "No, stories are stronger than bodies. Even if he disappears, the idea will remain." They sat in silence, their fear heavy. Back in her small home, the mother rocked her baby as neighbors came to her door. Some came with questions. "What did he say to you? Why did he choose you? Will he return?" Others came with warnings. "You have brought danger to us. If the leaders grow angry, they will punish this district." The mother's heart shook with every word. She wanted to protect her child, to hide him from all of this. Yet at the same time, she could not erase the memory of Darius's eyes or the way he had said, "No child should cry from hunger." She whispered to herself, "What if his kindness is not poison? What if it is the cure?" Darius, meanwhile, remained silent. He did not defend himself. He did not seek followers. But the more silent he stayed, the louder the rumors became. In the streets, children played pretend, shouting, "I am Darius and I save the hungry." "No, I am Darius." In the markets, mothers told the story to their children as they fed them scraps. Remember, there was a human who cared. Remember his name. And in the alleys, the hopeless whispered it to themselves at night as if it were a prayer. Darius. Darius, but hope is never safe. One evening, the mother left her home to fetch water. As she returned, she noticed a group of figures in the shadows watching her door. Their eyes were cold, their whispers sharp. That is the woman. She is the reason the story grows. If we silence her, maybe the whispers will die. The mother's blood turned to ice. She hurried inside, locking the door, clutching her baby. Her chest heaved as fear consumed her. She whispered, trembling, "They will come for me, or for him." That night, far away, Darius sat alone with his wooden bird. He knew the whispers had spread beyond control. He knew danger would soon follow. Yet when he closed his eyes, he did not see fear. He saw the alien child drinking from the bottle. He saw life returning where there had been only death. And he whispered again to himself it was worth it. But deep inside, he also knew this was only the beginning. Years passed. The city changed, but the memory of one act never faded. The poor alien child, once pale and weak, grew strong. His body carried scars of hunger, but his spirit carried something greater, hope. His mother often told him the story as she rocked him to sleep. "You were dying," she whispered, brushing his hair. "And a human, a stranger, gave you life. Remember this always. Remember the name, Darius." The child would repeat it softly like a prayer. "Darius." The story spread far beyond the market. It traveled through streets, across districts, even to other worlds. Some twisted it, some mocked it, but many clung to it. The name of the human who gave without asking became more than a rumor. It became a symbol. To the hungry, it was a promise. To the leaders, it was a threat. To the mother and her child, it was salvation. But Darius himself remained a mystery. Some said he had left the city, vanishing into the stars. Others claimed he lived in secret, watching from the shadows. A few whispered that he had died long ago, but his spirit remained. The truth was simpler. Darius lived quietly, never seeking glory. He never wanted followers, never wanted to be remembered as anything more than a man who kept his promise. But stories are stronger than silence. And the story of Darius grew louder than he ever could. When the child reached his youth, he began to walk the markets himself. Traders watched him carefully. Whispers followed him, just as they had followed his mother years ago. That is the boy. The one who lived because of the human. the one who carries the legacy. At first, he felt small under their eyes, but as time passed he realized something. He was not small. He was alive. He was proof, and proof was powerful. One evening, as the city's moons glowed silver, the young man stood in the market where his mother had once begged. Crowds gathered around, drawn by the rumor of his presence. He lifted his voice clear and strong. You all whisper the name Darius. You wonder if the story is true. I tell you it is. I was the child he saved. I live because of him. The crowd grew silent, every ear straining to hear. He gave me life without asking for reward. He showed that kindness is not weakness. He showed that hope can come even from those we fear. The whispers rose again, but this time they carried not suspicion, but awe. The young man continued, remember this, kindness does not belong to one species, one world, or one people. Kindness is stronger than fear, stronger than hunger, stronger than hate. And it began with one human who looked at me and said, no child should cry from hunger. The words spread through the crowd like fire. Some wept, some stood taller, some felt the first spark of courage they had ever known. The city's leaders heard too. Their fear grew, but so did their silence. They had tried to control the whispers, but now the whispers were a storm. A single act of mercy had become a force they could not crush. At home, the mother sat by her window, tears on her cheeks. She listened to her son's voice carry through the streets. She had once lived in shadows, trembling in fear, but now her child spoke with strength. Her heart whispered, Darius, wherever you are, know this. Your kindness did not end with one child. It grew. It will never die. Far away in a quiet place beyond the city, Darius sat alone, older now. His hair carried silver, his eyes carried lines of time. He had not sought fame, but he had heard the stories. He smiled faintly, holding the wooden bird in his hand. The same small toy from his childhood, they remember, he murmured. Not me, but the kindness. He looked up at the sky, the stars burning like endless eyes. And that is enough. The legacy lived on. Children in the city played a new game, not of war, but of mercy. They pretended to be Darius, sharing food, protecting the weak. Mothers told the story at night, their voices soft with wonder. Strangers on distant planets spoke his name, even if they had never seen him. And in every whisper, every memory, every act of kindness, Darius lived again. The alien mother, once poor and broken, grew old too. But in her final days, she held her grown son's hand and said with a smile, you are alive because one man cared. Now you must carry his fire. Never let it fade. Her son nodded, his eyes bright with tears. I will, mother. I promise. And as she closed her eyes for the last time, she felt no fear. Because she knew her child's future would not be written in hunger, but in hope. Thus one poor alien mother's tears, one hungry child's cry, and one human's choice became a story that moved worlds. The story of Darius. The story of kindness. The story